Alrighty, thank you everyone. Oh, we have one more person coming in. Just wait for them to join. All right, thank you so much everyone for joining us for our evening with MOOSE Alumni. We have some really awesome folks on the call today, and I'm so glad they could join us from really all across the country. We have Krupesh from Nunavut. We have Jackie from Whitehorse in the Yukon. We have Kayla, who Alberta. Right now she's in Ontario, but normally Calgary, Alberta. And we have Brooke, who's living in Nelson, BC. So we'll get into their very awesome bios in a second. But we do want to start with a quick land acknowledgement. So this is particularly for where McMaster is located, but it's important to know where in Canada you are and what Indigenous groups inhabit that land as well. So McMaster University stands on the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. And so the wampum beads are beads bound onto strings which narrate Haudenosaunee traditions, history, and laws. Fun fact, McMaster does have a few wampum belts, so I would definitely check them out once you're able to visit Mills again. And so the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement was created to bind the nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy to the Great Law of Peace. So the dish represents the shared land, while the one spoon reinforces the idea of sharing and peace. And we want to be cognizant of that as we move through the land and as we do anything outdoors or indoors. So without further ado, we will introduce the panelists. So I guess first up on my little list is Jackie. So Jackie, or Jacqueline Mills, she participated in MOOSE in her first year as a kin student, I believe.
Yep.
And she loved it so much that she participated all the way throughout her 4 years. And it helped her build connections and friendships all throughout undergrad and onwards. And now she's been living in Whitehorse for over 2 years and calls it home, and continues to enjoy the wilderness as a way to connect back with herself, the land, and other people around her. So Jackie's very awesome. Want to say hi, Jackie? I don't know, introduce yourself so people know who you are.
No, but if we're doing a land acknowledgement, I'm on the traditional territory of the Kwanlin Dun and Ton Quechin Council.
Thank you. So second up is Krupesh Patel. I might call him KP by accident, I'm sorry. I'll try and refer to you by your full name. So he's working as an environmental assessment coordinator for the Canada Wildlife Service branch of the Environment and Climate Change Canada. Long work title, KP. But he's based out of Iqaluit, Nunavut, and he works on projects that span all 3 territories, which is amazing because I don't think most people even go up to one of those territories in their lifetimes. So while at McMaster, he helped coordinate and really start the MOOSE Exchange program, which we haven't really talked about too much yet so far, but it's basically MOOSE, but for exchange students. This year, of course, we're not running it because exchange students aren't coming to MAC, unfortunately, in September, but it runs every other year, so keep an eye out for that. And he also helped with a lot of other outdoor rec programming that he can speak to. So want to say hi, KP?
Hey, how's it going? You can also call me KP or Krup. They're all totally fine. I rarely go by Krupesh unless I'm in trouble, I think. And yeah, I'm based in Iqaluit. And it's one of the 4 or 5 like Inuit kind of land areas in Canada. But right now I'm in Toronto, back home for a few weeks.
Thanks, KP. So we also have Kayla, and who was a part of the very first cohort of MOOSE when she entered the ISI program. And then she was there for 6 years. While she was at McMaster, she was working with MOOSE. And she was both a leader and coordinator, and she loved to see the positive impact that the program had on the incoming first years. So after Kayla graduated from McMaster with a degree in both engineering and science, I believe, Kayla, double degree, people. She moved to Calgary to be closer to the camping and hiking that the Rockies had to offer. And she currently owns a software startup that focuses on helping clean tech get the technology they need to succeed. Do you want to say hi, Kayla? I think you're on mute.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, so I'm normally living in Calgary, but I also, like KP, am home in Ontario for a couple weeks as well, just to see family. So, yeah.
Awesome. And next up, we have Brooke, and Brooke also was one of the coordinators for MOOSE for a number of years while she was here at McMaster. She did a master's in outdoor education, I believe, from Queen's, and is now working as an outdoor educator out in Nelson, BC. Do you want to say hi, Brooke?
Hello. Yeah, I'm a product of the KIN program, just like Jackie, and I was a leader in my second year, and then I was the coordinator for my third and fourth year at MAC.
Awesome. So as you guys see, we have some really awesome folks here on the panel today. So I guess one of the first questions is, what drew you to participate in the MOOSE program, whether it was like coming in as your first year or whether you wanted to participate as a leader for the first time? Anyone want to start?
No, Alyssa wrote in the chat, where is everyone joining us from? I think that could help us, like if people just wanted to say maybe where you are in the world and maybe what program you're going into, that might help some of the discussion. So if people are able just to either unmute themselves or, yeah, that could be nice. So Charlotte is from Toronto and going to biomed.
Oh, that's
cool.
That's the replacement program for my engineering program. It's a sweet program. Very excited about that.
Oh, awesome. Okay, nursing, sweet. Kingston in 5th year in biology, pharmacology. Oh, that's Alyssa. I was like, how are you in 5th year?
Oh, you're really good.
Art sci, nice. That's
Oh, hey,
sweet.
I finished art sci.
Another art sci. Sweet.
Fun fact, the first year of MOOSE was art science and iScience. So
that's it. Yeah.
have a long history with MOOSE.
Ottawa.
Oh, life sci.
Life sci. I was in life sci / bio.
Sweet.
Oh, another life sci.
Hamilton life sci. Sweet. That is unreal. I think that's. Okay. Henry answered yet, but okay. I forget your question, but I also don't want to start. Brooke was going to start, so let's hand it over to her. She's been around the longest.
So I didn't participate in MOOSE my first year when I was going into my first year of McMaster, but I heard about the program and I applied to be a leader because I loved the outdoors. I grew up doing a lot of trips with my family, and I really was glad to get involved with the McMaster community and wanted to give back. And also it sounded like a great time, obviously, which it ended up being. So yeah, I think it's just wanting to give back to the community, really love the outdoors. I wanted to make connections with other people.
For me, it was, as Martha said, it was only iScience and art science that first year. And so it was very much a specific iSci program and art sci program, and so half of my cohort went on the trip. So that was the biggest draw for me, was that I could meet everybody before Welcome Week. It's changed a lot, and I love the changes to where MOOSE has gone and included everybody. And I think it's just really grown into a great program, which is why I kept staying on as a leader and a coordinator.
And I joined, I think just because I got an email about it, and I probably like the other guys here, I've done a lot of canoeing and camping, and that's really where I've made some really good friendships, and I thought, what a good opportunity going into school before Welcome Week to make some of those closer connections that you do camping. But I recognize that this is a different year, and this is super cool, and I think this is awesome that we're maybe doing it virtually. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then for me, I don't think MOOSE had actually started when I started university. A few years older than everyone, but I think after I had gone on for a few years, I was like booking all the permits and transportation for MOOSE and never actually going on it. So eventually I was like, that's enough. I want to have fun too. So I helped start, like Martha said, our own exchange version of MOOSE, where we took exchange students out on a very similar program into Algonquin. And that was a really cool experience, just to like kind of see all these new people coming from all over the world and experience Canadian wilderness and really getting them comfortable with each other and their new lives at MAC.
Sorry to unmute. Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. Yeah, I think that's very similar reasons are still drawing people in today, and especially what we've seen. I'm sure if anyone else wants to join in from some of the first years that are on the chat right now, but everyone has said like they just want to make friends, make connections, and share people with similar interests. So hopefully you meet some alumni right now with similar interests as well. So how do you guys think that the MOOSE program or any of your outdoor rec involvement at MAC in undergrad impacted your undergrad experience, but also your lives post-grad, whether it be your careers or where even you chose to move in the country? Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
I think that the outdoor program, like the outdoor rec department at McMaster in general, makes getting in the outdoors really accessible. And I feel like that's a place where you make your best friends and you make the best connections there. And those are the people who will also support you in your studies and just as a person during your time at McMaster. And you'll definitely make some friends that you'll hold on to later and after school too. So it's both a support system. You probably are going to go on some amazing trips during and after MOOSE. And yeah, it's the outdoor rec component, I think, is that just like accessibility and relationship building was the biggest part for me.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with Brooke. It was the friendships that I made through outdoor rec, through the Outdoors Club, through MOOSE. A lot of my roommates throughout university were from MOOSE. My current roommate that I live with in Calgary is from MOOSE. Jackie and Krupesh and I went on a road trip out west, and that's how I ended up in Calgary. So it's just you meet those people that you click with and like have the same mindset as you, and then they help you push yourself to be better and push yourself to do things that you normally wouldn't do. Like I picked up 5 months after I graduated and moved out to Calgary with nobody. I didn't know anybody in Calgary, and so but I knew that Jackie was already close enough out west and that I would have all my friends' support as well. So it's that kind of friendship that you get from outdoor programs.
I'll go. I'll just see if Jackie was gonna go. Yeah, I think for me it's a two-parter. One, I think it's a great conversation starter. So once when I was applying for a job for my my summer when I was in third year, I went into an interview and I was talking about the outdoor club and being a leader with it and going on all these trips. And apparently one of my supervisors, well, to-be supervisors that was interviewing me had also gone on outdoor club trips a few years ago and had known a bunch of leaders from the past. So it was really easy to make that connection with them and really get a flow going for that interview, which helped. And not just that, any really interview you do, especially if you want to go somewhere remote, like a Iqaluit or Whitehorse, I've been asked before just in terms of like, how do you handle being in isolated places, or how do you handle being in tight areas with groups of people without too much of your own space and stuff like that. And I think that this experience kind of leads into a lot of that stuff. And then kind of like what Kayla says as well, it kind of gets you to step outside that comfort zone that you're always so used to and hesitant to step outside of. And I think not just like going on the trip, because going on the trip itself for first year when you don't really know anyone else, or coming onto teams like this and kind of engaging with people you haven't met before, it's a huge step outside of that comfort zone, which is I think really important for university as you come into and go into the 4 years. But then even later on, like if you want to go somewhere else that's outside of your home area, regardless if it's the north or in the States or anywhere in the world, you do take a big step. And I think going on MOOSE and programs like this, and then being a leader and really like challenging yourself and stepping out of that comfort zone helps you with those challenges that come later on.
Alrighty, it's saying my internet connection is unstable, so I'll give this a go, and I hope I don't freeze. I want to echo what Brooke said actually about the outdoor rec program making like being outside and outdoors really accessible. I was a bit afraid, I guess, to move to Hamilton in my first year. It felt like a really big city. I mean, I was coming from Barrie, so it wasn't like super small or anything, but I was like, I guess, used to being outside a lot, and I was nervous that I wouldn't get those opportunities anymore. And the outdoor program through the outdoor club and through MOOSE really helped me make some of those good friends and connections. So I was able to do a lot of that, whether it was going to the Grand Canyon with Kayla and Krupesh, and then after school, Kayla mentioned driving across the country, and just sort of on a whim, like it made me a lot more comfortable kind of taking those, doing those big trips. And I don't think I would have otherwise if I had not joined the outdoor club. I definitely wouldn't have, because I wouldn't have felt comfortable, I guess, with that sort of trip, like that trip experience, and that sort of spontaneity that's needed. And yeah, and that's kind of how I ended up here, which is wonderful. MOOSE, in a way, I guess, is why I'm here today. Otherwise, I wouldn't have met Kayla and Krupesh.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, as you guys see, there's so many great friendships, some of who are all on the call right now. And I would also definitely echo that. And I personally, myself experience and all my years with MOOSE have seen what Kayla was talking about people finding their roommates, people finding job opportunities, like KP was saying. It really just is not isolated to the individuals that are speaking right now. I mean, this happens, I would say, and I think everyone else from their experience being coordinators on MOOSE have seen that happen. And props to all of you guys, I want to say, before we go any further, to the first years on the call for making the leap and the jump to get involved in the outdoors world here at MAC, even if it's online. And so thank you so much for doing that, because that takes extra courage than it just does to just come out on trips. So that being said, is there any advice that you guys would give to the first year students on this call, or even your first year self? I know some of you guys are in the same programs as many of the people on this call, or just first year in life at MAC in general.
I'll start. I think first year will probably be a lot different for first years this year. I can't imagine what going into sort of a virtual semester would look like. But I guess one piece of advice is like, try to not say no. There's going to be tons of opportunities to get out, whether it's through the outdoors club, through a different activity you like, whether it be something totally new that you've never tried before. There's university has, and McMaster has just like so many opportunities to meet new people and do new things, and try to say yes to all of them. School second. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I would just echo what Jackie said. So my cousin is actually going into university as well this year, and I was talking to her a couple of days ago, and it's a difficult year. It's difficult for us to give advice because we obviously had a very different first year experience. Like, we got to go and meet people in person. You guys unfortunately have to do it over Zoom, and I applaud you guys for joining this call. Like, kudos to you. I don't think I would have as a first year. I don't think I would have taken that leap to join something like this. But yeah, as Jackie said, just embrace the weirdness, I think, would be my biggest advice this year. It's just like, it's going to be weird. It's going to be difficult, but you have to remember that everybody is in the same boat. Like, everybody is going into university the same way, and it's going to be weird. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. First year for me in person was weird. Like, it's a difficult transition time. And I would say, yeah, do what you love to do. Like, find your niche, find what you feel like that makes you happy, and like chase that, is what my biggest advice would be.
I would say definitely the like saying yes to everything as much as you can, getting involved. I think the other thing too, if I could go back and give myself a piece of advice, would be to try and make sure that you're finding balance. I think especially when things are online this year, it's going to potentially challenge you to learn in a different way than you have. And it's also going to be, you're going to be learning in a different way, and it's going to be intense. since, you know, you're in a new environment trying to learn things. So also taking time just to meet people, go and hang out with them, do things that keep you like happy mentally and physically, take up new hobbies, go meet new people, find a balance between that work life. Yeah, just find that balance. Make sure you take time for that.
I think with Brooke as well, I can't imagine like the challenge it's going to be for everyone entering first year this year, especially I think I remember my first year, my best friends that I have right now, I met in first year in chemistry class because we all just sat beside each other for multiple weeks in a row, and we always sat in the same spot, and that's how we met. And one of my best friends from that time just got married a few days ago. So like that social connection that you're able to make when it's not a COVID year is something that I think like everyone this year is going to miss out on, which is really a shame. It's a big challenge for you guys, but I think getting through that first year, I relied on my friends quite a bit, both academically and socially as well. And I think being at home alone and just doing these courses online is going to pose, I think, a challenge in that regard, where you don't have that social connection anymore, or not as much of an in-person social connection. So definitely take that time to balance your lifestyle and get out and try and like meet other people, or see if there's a way to kind of have COVID safe study sessions, and try and get some of that social connection and personal connection.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I think you guys are already taking a lot of the steps that we've talked about with trying to reach out and make friends, even if it's online. I think you're still making friends through the MOOSE program. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing. So you guys all have very different careers, but I think all in some way incorporate the outdoors. Would you guys be able to speak just a little bit, maybe explain what you guys are doing a bit better than I did in the intros, and maybe have any suggestions or advice for someone who's wanting to pursue a career in the outdoors, or somehow balance the outdoors with their careers?
I can go first this time. So I work for the Canadian Wildlife Services, which is a branch of Environment Canada, doing environmental assessments. Now that might sound like it involves a lot of outdoor time, but it involves very little outdoor time. I'm mostly in front of a computer screen reading along reports. That said, the Canadian Wildlife Services as a whole does a lot of cool outdoor field work. And we've got different branches. So not only do I get to like do my own job, which is still interesting, but I can also help out a lot of my colleagues when they do field work. They travel all across the territory, going to different communities in the north, doing field work and consultations and stuff like that, which is really fun. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do that this year because of COVID. What was the second part of your question? I totally forgot. You're not talking. You're on mute.
Sorry, I have still not learned. How many months of COVID has it been? But yeah, do you have any advice for anyone who's wanting to pursue maybe a career like yours, or just with the outdoors in general?
For sure. Keep applying. I think it took me forever to get this job. And then also, like, once you do get into a job, don't just think that it's like just specifically just that one job. Like, there's always opportunities to branch out and do other things outside of your role. Like I mentioned, like my role specifically doesn't involve the outdoors too much, but a lot of my colleagues are outdoors all the time. So I'm always trying to figure out ways to get onto their field programs or their consultation teams and get out of the office and help out with that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I can talk about mine. So I quit my job in January and I started my own startup. Yeah, big step, and then COVID hit. So it's been a lot of stress. But right now, so my job involves none of the environment. Well, it does in a way, but I do a lot of programming. So I do a lot of computer work. But my startup is focusing on getting technology to green energy. different small startups. There's a lot in Alberta right now because we're moving away from oil and gas, which is exciting. So I'm trying to help those succeed, but I spend my whole 40 to 50 hours a week at my laptop just coding. So the way I balance it is that I have a great roommate that pushes me to go outside every weekend. The mountains are an hour and a half away, so we go for a hike every weekend, or I take the dog for a walk out in the mountains. And she's really great at like making time and planning time for us to go, which I am so grateful for her for that. She'll be like, okay, this weekend we're going out. This weekend we're doing that. Like, and she has it all planned for me. And I know that if she moves out, then I need to do that myself because that's how I get my happiness. So I need to be proactive and block out time. And that's how I do my work-life balance with the outdoors. So yeah, and like, as Krupesh said, like I worked in oil and gas for a year and a half and I hated every single minute of it. But where you start in your career doesn't mean where you're going to end in your career. Like Krupesh said, there's different segues and you just have to find what makes you happy and jump on that opportunity. And that's how I ended up where I am. So.
Was this roommate Madison, who somehow also tied to Moose and the outdoors, so connections?
I would say that all of your jobs that you do even before you graduate totally count and matter. I feel like working with the outdoor recreation department at McMaster showed me what I do and don't like doing, and also helped me network a ton, and also reaffirmed that I love working in the outdoors. And I ended up going to teachers college specifically for outdoor education. Now I'm doing my master's in outdoor education and I'm a teacher teaching outdoor education. So it's definitely a big part of my life. But yeah, my biggest suggestion, if you are going to be working during the summer or even during the school year, if you can balance a part-time job, if you want to find a job that fits in the outdoor ed industry, it definitely will help you in some direct or indirect way.
Yeah, we have lots of jobs through Outdoor Rec at MAC, which we have another panel to talk about. But if you have any questions, we can definitely expand on those at the end. But there's lots of really cool job opportunities, like Brooke said.
I think Jackie dropped out, or she lost her.
Sorry. Oh, whoops. Okay, well, hopefully she can join back in. Hopefully her internet comes back. But I guess a lot of you guys have already touched on it already, but do you guys have any other tips for keeping a good work/outdoor life or just other life in general balance post-uni or even during university while you guys were in Hamilton, and there's lots of trails to explore here as well?
Yeah, I would say, kind of touching on that about trails and going around, I think in first year, and maybe this could be a benefit of doing school online. I think a lot of people go towards being like, oh, this sucks, this is too bad. But I think that there's honestly a lot of benefits to this. You have a lot of flexibility around. Another thing about getting involved and, taking balance, but also explore the area. If you have a chance, if you're going to be in Hamilton, like if you already live there, I think one person said, or if you're going to be moving to the area at all, go and explore it. Take time to get off campus and see the area. Dundas is absolutely beautiful. Just like even places close to campus, downtown. If you have a friend that has a car or you want to get onto transit, there's so many cool hikes and little cultural centers and events that are going on. So I would say just take time to explore the community and get to know the community outside of McMaster alone.
Thank you. I think Jackie joined in. So we were just, I don't know if you heard any part of these questions, Jackie, but we were just talking about your guys' careers and just like if you could explain what you're doing a little bit, if you're comfortable with that, and then how you balance work and outdoor life, or if work is your outdoor life.
Awesome. Thanks. Sorry, guys. Internet is being wonky here. It's usually not. Despite how remote Whitehorse might feel, it's actually a pretty big place. So that's not the issue. I think it's probably just me. I am working as an environmental health analyst here in Whitehorse after my undergraduate in kinesiology. I really had a strong desire to kind of mix as much as possible my kind of interest in health related things and as well as my kind of love for being outside and the environment in general. So I did my master's in public health. And so now I work here with the chief medical officer. And like Kayla and Krupesh, I do a lot of office work. I'm not out in the field a lot. I do get out a lot on weekends. Whitehorse has green space that's probably even more accessible than Hamilton. And so mostly for my work, I will do assessments of different contaminated sites. I'll look at things like lead in drinking water. I will look at some like naturally occurring asbestos issues in communities. So kind of a lot of things come my way. Wildfire smoke is a big one, and same with radon. Those are my two favorites. If anyone wants to talk radon, I'm in on it any day. Kind of got a thing for it now. But I don't remember what the rest of the question was, but I think if you do want to spend your career in something outdoorsy or not, I just think you should follow what you're interested in and kind of, if there's sort of a lead somewhere and you feel like that's going somewhere, just like keep following it and follow those, use your connections, they'll come in handy.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. All of your jobs sound really cool. Just to loop it back to Moose, before we finish off the panel, do you guys have any favorite stories that you'd like to share from your experience with Moose, or if you have really cool ones from undergrad at Mac?
I think Kayla should probably tell mine.
Yeah, so we had one morning where Jackie was trying to make breakfast for her group.
With my partner.
With Nadine, yes, with Nadine. But Jackie mistook the bear spray for propane, and so she tried to twist the bear spray cap off. And I don't know how many of you guys have interacted with bear spray, but all it takes is one little squish and it's going everywhere. And so Jackie accidentally bear sprayed her entire group because the wind had pushed it out to where everybody was sleeping, because she had convinced everybody to sleep outside. The wind pushed it all out over onto everybody. So then her entire group is just like in the lake, pushing water onto their eyes. And yeah, I didn't hear about it until afternoon when they paddled up and said, "Oh, I bear sprayed everybody." It was a great morning.
It is safer to partake in virtual moose. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Bear spray is dangerous.
And don't worry, we haven't let Jackie live it down. We regularly do not let her hold the bear spray.
It's fair enough. But other than that, I'll just add on, that's a funny story. But as funny as that is, the participants and the leaders I was co-leading with, we were all like super close after that experience. That really brings you together. It's kind of unforgettable. It's not an experience you share with many people. So that along with the whole Moose experience. So.
Yeah, when the year that I was a leader with a girl named Jackie and Jacqueline, who's on the call with us.
Yeah, that was my first year.
Yeah, so she was a participant. Jacqueline was a participant, and this other girl and I were the leaders. And that group that we had was so fun. And Jackie is engaged and was supposed to get married, I think, last week. And I still keep in touch with her. And I don't know if I can really pinpoint like a specific memory, but it's just really sweet to have the relationships and to keep in touch with people, and also like the connections. And I have people contacting me for different things, and I'll contact them for help. So I think I cherish those connections that we have.
I want to say my favorite moment, because I got to say Jackie's. But my favorite moment was, I originally went to school for ISI, I did 2 years of that, and then I switched into engineering. And I asked if I could still be a leader on MOOSE because I was in my 3rd year, can't be a participant. So I got to be the leader for the engineering group as a first year, going into first year engineering. So it was really interesting for me being like, I don't know how to help you with engineering, but I know how to help you with school. And then going to class and having some of my participants like sit with me it was a really fun year for me. And like, those were like my closest participants after that year because I would take classes with them, was in exams with them, like hanging out with them as a leader, but like mentor. It was a weird dynamic, but it worked out really well. And I think that was one of my favorite memories, is just like going to class and sitting with my participants, which you normally don't get to do.
Do you have any fun stories, KP, from your years on MooseX?
There were lots of stories.
Maybe too many?
I feel like they were all type 2 / semi-traumatic, but no, I think MOOSE and MOOSE Exchange were great programs. Just especially as a leader and a coordinator, you kind of see a different side to it, and it's a lot of work for both leaders and coordinators. But it's really fun kind of seeing all the groups interact and really have a great time out there and make those connections. Maybe I'll tell a different story. It's not really a story, but I think being part of Outdoor Rec, you get to go on lots of cool trips. Especially if you're a leader, you can plan your own trips and lead them wherever you want. And Kayla and Jackie had actually planned a trip to the Grand Canyon a few years ago. And at that time, I was working for Outdoor Rec after I graduated, and someone had to drop out of the trip because they had gotten an infection or something. And Jackie had called me up the day before while I was out running errands and was like, "Hey, someone dropped out of the trip. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Sure." So I just went back to the office, told our boss, "Hey, I'm going to the Grand Canyon for a week tomorrow," and just left with them and had a great time. And yeah, like it was sweet going again. I think that was the 2nd time I went to the Grand Canyon. And it was super fun. So yeah, lots of cool opportunities that come out of Outdoor Rec and MOOSE and Altitude and all those programs that they have there.
Awesome. I did not know that was like a night before a decision, your trip to Grand Canyon. So that's awesome. We got one other person joining. Awesome. All right. So let's say we can probably open up the floor to see if you guys have any questions. Anyone in particular or just in general. If you would want, you can just turn your mic off and say it out loud, or if you feel more comfortable, you can also write it in the chat box as well.
It doesn't have to be MOOSE specific either. I'm sure we're all happy to answer McMaster general questions. So happy to be talking to people coming into the program.
I can start us off with a question. I know we talked a lot about like MOOSE and the outdoors program, but what's something outside of like MOOSE or the outdoors program that you tried at McMaster? Like maybe it was a class that's accessible to some of our first year friends, or maybe it's a cool club that you started or were a part of. I don't know if you have anything like that you want to share.
I do have one. So in my last year, and I'm really upset that I didn't do it earlier, I joined McMaster Synchro. And they have a novice team, so you don't even have to know how to do anything. You just have to be able to swim. And it was honestly one of the best things that I've ever joined. It was so much fun. You got to compete, obviously not this year, but for later years, you got to compete against other teams, other novice teams, so you're not getting absolutely crushed. But yeah, I learned a lot of really fun, cool things. And I like to like whip it out in front of friends now. It's not great, but I'll be in the lake and I'll be like, look what I can do. So highly recommend McMaster Synchro.
That's awesome, Kayla. I was really big into the ultimate frisbee scene at McMaster, and that was another really great community for me, in addition to the outdoor rec community. And I know everything is so different this year, so I feel like it's hard to sort of compare what your year might be like, but when you do go back to class and things are more accessible again, I highly recommend intramurals. There's a bazillion intramural sports. In particular, inner tube water polo is so fun and a huge workout, but there's lots of intramurals for any skill level, beginner to competitive, and I don't know, sports. They're good.
Yeah, I didn't honestly get into intramurals, and that's probably one of my biggest regrets of my entire undergrad was not doing intramurals. So definitely try that out. Pretty sure there's like every single sport you can think of. I did join the cycling team. So if you like either road biking or mountain biking, I 100% encourage you to join the club. It's either super informal, but they also have a racing team. And there's also a bike co-op that's built in. I feel like they moved it since I've been there. It was in the back of the stadium, but they've done all these crazy buildings and stuff now. Anyways, there's a bike co-op on campus, and it's a sweet spot for people to get help if you have a commuter bike or even one that you use more like recreationally. There's people who like man the shop and they help you with your bike, and it doesn't cost anything. They'll give you cheap parts at cost. Really sweet resource for anyone who's interested in cycling.
On the more academic side, I guess, there's a bunch of like academic clubs out there on all sorts of topics. I was really into kind of like water and sanitation, like sustainable development, like environmental policy, and a whole bunch of all that stuff as well. So there's a really cool club there called the McMaster Water Network, and it's associated with the UN, United Nations University Institute for Water, Environment, and Health, which also has like a faculty water network that they kind of run. So the student and the faculty groups are a little bit linked, and you do lots of cool joint programming together, and you hold like conferences and stuff like that. And you also make lots of connections like in that area as well. So if you're into more academic clubs, there's that one.
Can I add something really quick too? I just want to say there's also a lot of cool opportunities in Hamilton as well. I did a bit of volunteering in schools just after school. And anyway, I got into that too late, but I just think if you can explore Hamilton a bit more as well and get out of campus a bit when things are back in person, I would highly recommend looking for opportunities outside of McMaster as well.
Wonderful. Those are all such great opportunities. I know last night on our sustainability panel, like Abby Little was telling us all about like even just like doing a sustainability minor was like something that a lot of people don't consider. And then they take one course and they're like, oh, I can do a minor in this. So yeah, lots of like academic and non-academic opportunities available, which overall just makes you like a really well-rounded person. Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely echo all the different intramurals, clubs, services, and courses that everyone mentioned. And Hamilton really is a really special city, so I would really recommend taking the time to explore downtown. Yeah, does anyone have any other questions? No questions.
I have another one that I think gets asked a lot if no one else has any questions. It's how did you get involved in the outdoor recreation group or like MOOSE? Some people already talked about how you got in MOOSE, and like were there any hurdles or any like misconceptions you had that, you know, were proven opposite once you joined? Because I know some people have different like thoughts about, you know, maybe like during the outdoors club might be challenging or hard to do. I don't know if anyone else has.
Yeah, I'll talk about that. So I didn't join the outdoors club for so long. It was Krupesh that actually bullied me into leading one of the trips because they were down leaders. But I was always worried about like my own self-doubt that I wasn't going to be good enough as a leader on those trips, that I didn't have enough outdoors experience. I didn't have anything. But everybody's super friendly there. Everybody is super inclusive is what I've noticed. And they will help you get the skills you need to lead trips or join trips. Everybody's super friendly. And so I think one of my biggest misconceptions was that it was like a tight-knit, like exclusive group, but it's not, so.
Yeah, that kind of ties in pretty well to one of the questions in the chat from Matin, and he said, are there any requirements to join MOOSE and the outdoors activities when campus opens up? So I guess, Alyssa, I can just speak briefly to this. So you guys are already all a part of MOOSE just by registering for this program. So you guys are all a part of MOOSE. If we do have the possibility of running an in-person trip, if things open up eventually, then obviously there's going to be another sign up, but we'll let you all know. I think Brooke also mentioned, yeah, I don't know if you want to speak to that, Brooke. I don't want to talk.
Sorry, MOOSE specifically or the outdoor rec department? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. You can speak to both, yeah.
Yeah, MOOSE, I guess anyone who's on this call is already registered. So you'll get to participate in that. I think it would be really sweet if you guys get the thumbs up to run a trip later in the year. I would 100% recommend that. That would be awesome. With the Outdoors Club, I'm assuming that they're still running it semi in the same way that they did when I was there. They would do like a table at Clubs Fest, and they would also have a Facebook group where they would keep people informed on what trips are going. And then if you wanted to register for a trip, you would go to the office that's in DBAC, and that's where you would sign up and get a spot on any trips that they're running. And the trips can be anywhere from like $5 to hundreds of dollars for a big international trip. So there's a big range. You don't have to be forking out a lot of money to be going on all the trips.
Yeah, I'll also say with MOOSE too, like you guys are already a part of MOOSE as students, but a lot of our like students come back as leaders, which you've probably heard in this call and other calls. And we try to be as welcoming and as inclusive as possible. So we've taken students and leaders before who haven't had any formal canoe trip experience. And we've matched them with a leader who has a lot of canoe trip experience to try to be more welcoming. And our only requirement is that people get first aid by the time they join us on trip. So you can apply and interview and all that jazz and get accepted, and then have your first aid cert by August, and then come on a trip and we do training. And it's super awesome. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. It's super inclusive and friendly. And I can also speak to Kayla's experience where like I thought I'd like to be an outdoors club leader. Like I would have to go on every trip, and like there's no way you can go on every trip financially and academically. Like there's no way you can do that. Yeah, it's super, like you can do one trip for the whole year and still be a leader and stuff like that. And it's a tight-knit community, but an inclusive community. Like we're always welcoming to new people.
Does that sort of answer the question about any requirements? Does anyone have any other questions about specific things? Oh, sorry, did you want to say something, Jackie?
No, I was going to tell you you're muted.
No. Yeah. I will never learn. I'm just going to wait for COVID to be over.
I guess another thing with the Outdoors Club is we run a lot of like training sessions and like there's skill and training sessions. So like even if you're not, or say you're qualified at one thing but not at another, like you can learn from other people, which is super great. Yeah.
Am I muted again? Sorry. Okay. I guess if people are thinking of other questions, do you guys have any like all-time favorite outdoors trips that you guys have been on, or places that you visited? Doesn't have to be like while you're
Hawaii, hands down. When the Outdoors Club went to Hawaii, best trip ever. Honestly,
Yes.
The Grand Canyon was great too. Yes, Noah agrees. Grand Canyon is also a good one, but those are like the big ones. I would say the Algonquin trip every year is always a super fun one. A lot of people go on that one, so you get a chance to meet a lot of new people. Yeah, and Hamilton backpacking. I never got to do it, but I've heard great things. I know Jackie did that one, so.
Hamilton backpacking is sweet. It gets you to know Hamilton in a whole new way. I'd say probably my favorite place, and maybe this is obnoxious because I'm so close, but I've been to Alaska a fair bit, not this year, but in the last 2 years, and ocean, mountains, north. It's just really incredible. So you should make it up, stop by on your way and say hi to me.
Funny story, you might actually run into Jackie in Whitehorse. I literally ran into her on the street last year when I was at Whitehorse. So You might actually stop by and say hi to her.
Yeah, you will. It's like, is this Martha? It can't be.
It's like, what? And then I ran into her twin sister on a mountain and I thought it was Jackie. So
I got to go dog sledding for the first time as part of the outdoor club, and that was really fun. That was sweet. I haven't done it since. I'd like to do it again. And also something that is fairly recent. While I was at Mac, the Outdoors Club helped run a screening of a movie called Jumbo Wild. And this past weekend, I just got to go hike Jumbo Pass, which is where they were basing the movie off of. And I'll share the link to the trailer if anyone likes watching really awesome outdoor documentaries. I 100% recommend this film. It's epic, and it was really good to go see the place that we helped raise money for and help protect.
it's also a really cool movie. Oh, sorry, go for it. Oh, I was just saying it's really cool from like an environmental policy perspective as well. If that's something you're interested, it lays out the groundwork really well. If that's what people are interested in as well. Sorry, KP.
It's cool. Yeah, I was going to say Hamilton backpacking, it's a small trip and it's super cheap, but it's a great one. I think I've done it at least a dozen times. I'm not even exaggerating. I feel like we used to run it like at least 3 or 4 times a year, both in like the fall and in the spring as well. And very few leaders wanted to go on it, but it was a really great trip. Other than that, I always liked the planning aspect of the trip. It's a lot of work, but I find it really enjoyable. So like any trip that I get to like plan and like have my hands in, I always really enjoyed. And then type 2 trips where it's like shit can go wrong during the trip or something happens and you might be miserable, but like looking back on it, it's super fun. I love those kinds of trips as well.
At the end. Okay, so we're nearing the end. Still have not learned. But if there's any last minute comments or questions, feel free to just unmute and say them out loud or just shoot them in the chat. If not, we'll ask the panelists if they're comfortable sharing their contact info. And if you're interested, you could also potentially reach out to them as well after.
Cool. My final thought is I think Kayla mentioned this earlier. Kudos to you guys for coming to a virtual program. I mean, it's strange times right now, but that is super awesome that you've made it out. I don't know if I would have made it out in this first year. So the people who you see on this call, definitely, I guess, find ways to keep in touch and meet up with each other, either virtually or maybe in person sometime soon. And I promise you there's some good friends just right here.
So we just have a few more quick questions. So what is the difference between the Outdoors Club and MOOSE? Does anyone want to speak to that?
MOOSE is like, there's the outdoor recreation department at McMaster, and MOOSE and the Outdoors Club are managed kind of by that department as a whole. So they're kind of 2 different programs underneath the same umbrella. MOOSE is an orientation program that happens at the beginning of the year, and they do kind of events or keep in touch with people throughout the year. But the Outdoors Club is a club that runs events and trips throughout the entire school year. So MOOSE is an orientation program, outdoor program goes and does trips throughout the entire year.
I like to tell people that like MOOSE is like a good bridge into like getting introduced to the like Outdoors Club. Like you don't have to be a part of MOOSE to be a part of the Outdoors Club and vice versa. But like just that like you meet a lot of people who are involved in the Outdoors Club, and then it makes it an easy connection to be like, oh, I'm gonna go join the Outdoors Club.
Yeah, so I see we already answered the how long has MOOSE been around for question in the chat. So yeah, it's been 8 years. And so far, according to my calculations, we've had about 350 students come through the program. And then the exchange program has been running for, what is it, 4 years now, KP? And we've had about 290 exchange students come through the program. So we're definitely building quite the community, I would say.
And this year, to add to you, Martha, we have 212 students registered, so like almost doubled our first year input. But hopefully people feel engaged, which is super, super cool. But
yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you again to Kayla, Brooke, KP, and Jackie. We really appreciate you taking the time. I know you guys are all in all different times and you guys are all working. So thank you so much for taking the time to come and share your experiences and your knowledge with all of us. Oh, there's one person waiting to join the room. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Yeah.
Yep. Take care, guys.